All right, getting better and better. So, Kirby, it was sure good to see you this last weekend. With that, I'm gonna bring on the Curb Meister to read chapter 16. Curb, are you there?
I'm here, Tracy. Thank you, buddy. It's funny, I was thinking when you were looking at the clock, used to we had to synchronize our watches because we all had different times, but everybody's got their cell phone now and it all syncs up. So we got 8:15 and we're ready to start. And I'm filling in for my lovely wife this morning who's got a couple of our grandbabies in from town, and they're off to vacation Bible school, so she asked me to do the call this morning. Happy to do that. And as Tracy said, we're on chapter 16, Choose the Happy Few. And I read this chapter last night, and it reminded me of a very important lesson that I learned a few years back from a mentor of mine. I'll share that with you. So let me read the chapter here. It says, politely walk away from friends who don't support the changes in your life. There will be friends who don't. They will be jealous and afraid every time you make a change. They will see your new motivation as a condemnation of their own lack of it. Interesting, right? In subtle ways, they bring you back down to who you used to be. I want to talk about the crabs in the bucket here in a second. Beware of friends and family who do this. They know not what they do. The people you spend time with will change your life in one way or another. That's true. And if you associate with cynics, then they will pull you down with them. I'm not a good reader this morning, sorry. If you associate with people who support you in being happy and successful, you will have a head start on being happy and successful. Throughout the day, we have many choices regarding who we are going to be with and talk to. Don't just gravitate to the coffee machine and participate in the negative gossip because it's the only game in town. It will drain your energy and stifle your own optimism. We all know who lifts us up, and we all know who brings us down. It's okay to start being more careful about whom we give our time. In his inspiring book, Spontaneous Healing, which I have not read, Andrew Weil recommends make a list of friends and acquaintances in whose company you feel more alive, happier, and more optimistic, like Tracy Davis. Pick one whom you will spend some time with this week. When you're in a conversation with a cynic, possibilities seem to have a way of disappearing. Excuse me. A mildly depressing sense of fatalism seems to take over the conversation. No new ideas and no innovative humor. Cynics, observed President Calvin Coolidge, do not create. On the other hand, enthusiasm for life is contagious, and being in a conversation with an optimist always opens us up to see more and more of life's possibilities. Kierkegaard, who I had to look up, some Danish philosopher, once said, if I were to wish for anything, I should not wish for wealth and power, but for the passionate sense of the potential, for the eye which, ever young and ardent, sees the possible. Pleasure disappoints, possibility never. I have no idea what that means. Anyway, so that's the chapter, and as you can tell, I'm not a professional reader, and I'm a bit dyslexic, and I remember one time I had to read in front of a class when I was a kid, and I couldn't do it very well, and I got laughed at, and it scarred me for life. So reading in public is kind of hard for me. But anyway, it talked about, it said the people that you spend time with will always change life one way or another. If you associate with cynics, they'll pull you down with them. And it reminded me of a story about the crabs in the bucket. Hopefully you've heard this, maybe you haven't. But if you take a bucket and you put some crabs in the bucket, and one of the crabs will climb up to the edge, and he was just about to climb out, the other crabs will reach up and pull him down back in the bucket with them, which is kind of the way life is a lot of times with our friends. We get to going in life and get some positive things going. They get jealous and envious, and they start to pull you back in. Hey, you can't leave. You can't get better. You got to stay in misery with us. That's the way it seems to be. And as I mentioned earlier, years ago, I had a mentor by the name of Tim that told me I had to kind of pick my friends and associate with people that lifted me up and not people that pulled me down. And we were at a gathering one time, and Tim was there, and we were at a group of us standing there in kind of this party environment talking, and the conversation turned negative, and I watched him turn and walk away. And I thought, wow, isn't that interesting? He just removed himself from the conversation when it got negative. That's kind of cool. And it's the first time I'd ever seen that, because I was, at that point in my life, kind of a follower. So if the conversation went negative, I was going to follow that and jump right in, and it was going to turn me negative. And I saw him physically turn and walk away, and I thought, okay, I'll remember that, and I still do. That was probably a good 25 years ago, if not longer. And so then I thought, on Facebook, if somebody is saying things that we don't like, what do? We unfriend them. So it's kind of like that. There may be some people in our lives that we need to unfriend, some people in our lives that we need to distance ourselves from. Doesn't mean you have to not be friends with them ever again and never talk to them again, but you kind of need to push away and distance yourself from them and pick the people that you want to be with. Now, I currently have been going through recently some new goal setting, and one of my new goals is to level up my friends. And what I mean by that is I'm trying to identify people in my life that I want to hang with, that will encourage me and lift me up, and people that I feel better when I'm around them, and people that inspire me to become a better person. So I've got a list of about 8 people. Tracy, I put your name on that because you lift me up and inspire me when I'm around you. And so with that, Tracy, I'll give it back to you and see if you got any comments to add to the call here.
I'm so glad I'm on that list, Kirby. You'd be on my list. So I thought about the crabs in the bucket when I was reading this chapter as well, but it took me back to when I was working in the prison. I was working probably 15, 16 hours a day, and then I'd go out and I would build our business. And I had so many of my close friends was being negative, and I couldn't figure out why. And I came to the conclusion it wasn't that they were rooting against me. Well, maybe they were rooting against me a little bit. It wasn't, that they disliked me. I believe that it was the fact that if I was successful doing what I was doing, what did that say about them? And in my mind, it said they can do it too if they really wanted to. They just didn't want to. They were happy in working and going home, and they were comfortable in doing what they were doing. And if one of their friends went out and became successful, what did that say about them? In all reality, it didn't say nothing about them. It just said something about me. But in their mind, if one of their compadres was able to go be successful, it hurt their self-esteem, and that's a sad little deal. So, what I chose to do, the only way I could get through that back then, unfortunately, was to disassociate with my friends, really, because they were bringing me down. I had to associate with positive people that uplifted me. I had to stay positive. And I think that's very important in anything we're doing. I have some goals now, and I had to disassociate with some people and associate with people that are positive, people that are moving forward, people that are not satisfied with just status quo, people that want to improve themselves. So with that, I'll give it back to you, Kirb, for a final few words.
All right, good point, Tracy. And I can't quite imagine working in that environment that you worked in when you worked in the prison, because that had to be difficult to keep yourself up and motivated and positive in an environment that was probably mostly negative. The other environment that I want to mention that I have found to be mostly negative is the news. And I am admittedly addicted to the news. And I've learned in my last few years of life here that the reason that I'm addicted to the news is because the people that run the news know how to make it addictive. And they make it addictive because it's 80 or 90% negative stuff. And there's something weird about us as human beings that gravitate towards that negative stuff. And it is addictive, and I believe, I've done some reading on this, that there's some kind of adrenaline rush that you get in the drama of the news. that's negative, and that's what they do. They spin it up around a negative topic, and for some reason that attracts people. They say if it bleeds, it leads in the news, and they know that for some reason we gravitate towards this. So I have to make a conscious decision to not look at the news. There's a lot of stuff going on right now that I'd like to know about, but I don't really want to know about, and I know if I get involved in it, it's going to pull me down. It's going to put me in a state of mind that I don't want to be in. So I've made a conscious decision to fast from the news. It's so easy. It's at our fingertips. We can just push a couple buttons, and there it is, pouring into our brains and pouring into our spirit and polluting it and preventing us from being the best that we can be. So I would encourage you, like Tracy said, he had to disassociate with some friends, or maybe some friends in your life, and you may not even be aware of it. They may be very close to you. I've got an in-law that is just wired in such a way that her conversations are always about what's wrong. It's unconscious to her. She doesn't know it. She doesn't even know that she does it. But whatever it is that's going on in the conversation, she believes, I think, in her own way, that's her job to find out what's wrong with the situation and mention it. And it gets a little old after a while. And that's an in-law. That's somebody very close to us, somebody that we love very much, but can't stand to be around for very long because of that. And unfortunately, this person is of the age that is probably not going to change. He's not probably ever going to recognize this and make that change. But everybody, and she as well, if she wanted to, could make that decision and change the associations that we have with people. So choose a happy few, whether it's the news or the people that you're talking to, and watch what a difference it makes in your life. And thank you all for dialing in today. Thank you, Tracy, for kicking us off. And we'll unmute the lines, Tracy, if you would, and we'll say goodbye.
All right. I have a quick challenge for everybody. That is, so whoever you're around, or if you're watching something on TV, just check. Be good to yourself this week. Check yourself. Did that make me feel better or worse? Just ask yourself that question. Being around that person, did that make me feel better or worse? If they made you feel worse, maybe limit. You don't have to avoid them. Maybe limit your time with them this week. If they've made you feel better, hey, increase your time with them this week. Go out and be good with yourself this week. Be good to yourself. With that, I'm going to unmute so we can say goodbye. All right. Everybody go out and have a good week.
Thanks for the challenge, Tracy.
Okay, Tracy, I'm waiting for you to come to Missouri so we can have a good time.
I'm coming.
Bye.
Bye-bye,
love you, brother.
Bye-bye, everybody.
Thanks, Tracy. Thanks, Kirby.